Should Kansas City be losing to a playoff eliminated team? Probably not. But what I do think that this loss actually potentially does is help them, because I do think it will show them weakness. I think it will give them tape to show, hey, when we don't do X, Y, and Z, we lose. And so I think that this loss came at a really good time for them if they're going to be without Chawinga throughout the finals.
I'm a hot girl, I'm a hot girl. I get anything I want, this is my world. I make big moves in my big heels. Since the day that I was born, I've been a big deal. I'm a hot girl, I'm a hot girl. I get anything.
Well, I was sick yesterday. I laid in bed for 20 out of probably 24 hours. And I had pho, and then I had too much pho. You
Was
know
it good?
How it is. Oh, it was incredible. Yeah. You know, like, you can never really, like, eat a proper amount of pho. It's like
No, there's literally not a proper amount of pho.
Welcome to Let Her Shoot, the only podcast where the podcast hosts talk about pho to start it off. No bullshit, just the way that we want the women's game covered. I'm going to tell you this right now. The words aren't coming out smooth. We're going to see how it goes. No bullshit, no kid gloves, just respect for the athletes. All the reasons to stay locked in. Sarah Chawinga, of course, my lovely co-host, two-time Emmy Award-winning producer as well, Trysta Crick. We'll call her the talent that has been nominated for nothing talent-wise or anything else. So help me get an Emmy if you want. If you're liking our stuff, we actually do have the hype button now.
We have the hype button now. I know, I saw that.
Hype us up.
So please do. Yeah.
On YouTube, subscribe on YouTube, comment on YouTube. Our engagement numbers have been excellent thanks to you guys. iHeart, Odyssey, Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on Instagram at The Daily W Sports. Also on Threads at The Daily W Sports. Threads is like needs a little bit of love, so everybody get on there. And then TikTok for now, as Barron Trump or some Trump ends up investing.
He's going to totally be the CEO of Threads, for sure.
Not Threads, TikTok.
I mean, sorry.
Someone
you know what? One day they're all going to be the same thing.
Someone can't speak. I guarantee you Meta will never be owned by the same people that own TikTok. Anyway, what are we fucking talking about today? I've been a little out of it.
You're out of it.
All I know is that we have a key star that went down with an upper leg injury in the NWSL. Actually, and another star.
There's two.
And
There's
another
two
star
of them.
that had lower leg injury in Chawinga and Trinity Rodman, which is fucking terrible stuff. Anyway, what else are we talking about besides those stars going down?
The NWSL playoff race is starting to come fully into focus. I'll tell you who's in, who's out, and who still has a shot. There's a couple big names that said goodbye, so we're going to look at their legacy and their impact. Au revoir. Also in the WNBA, coaching changes have begun, and we have a lot to say. You asked me a question this weekend that I'm going to answer on the pod. We're going to cast our WNBA version of Netflix's Starting Five.
Love it.
So I know you weren't dialed in on the NWSL this weekend, but there were, just to start out, two pretty big injuries this weekend, which were a big bummer. But Temwa Chawinga went down with what looked like a non-contact groin injury. She had to be carried off the field by two trainers. Eventually went back to the locker room in a wheelchair. And that was a big bummer. Not to mention, they ended up losing that game. So a little bit of cracks in the armor in Kansas City, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit. Plus, Trinity Rodman went down in this is what frustrated me about this, was it wasn't even an NWSL game. It was a Champions Cup. What do they call it? CONCACAF W Champions Cup, League Cup or something.
They
like
really need to get their branding together. If we have to,
it's way too long. It does not flow off the tongue. It's like the CONCACAF W Champions Cup League. It's a mouthful. Anyway, the other league, the U.S. version of the Champions Cup, or the North America version of the Champions Cup. So they were playing Monterrey.
Where is that?
I think Mexico.
Is that just because you think it's a type of cheese? And so you...
No, I think it's like actually like La Liga in Mexico.
Got it.
because it's the CONCACAF. So it's got to either be the NSL or La Liga, and it's not the NSL. So I'm gonna just default.
That's great deduction right there.
Yeah. So they went down. First of all, the Spirit won 4-0, and Trinity goes down with a knee injury that they have now said is an MCL sprain. So it's not like as severe as it could be, but her timetable is uncertain. We don't know when she's going to return, and we end up with maybe having Trinity Rodman in the playoffs, maybe not having Trinity Rodman in the playoffs. She's going to miss the national team call-up that she has for this week since, like I pointed out earlier, it is an international break here before decision day, which I hate, by the way. Just absolutely hate it.
Yeah, I just don't really get why the soccer community does the NWSL so wrong. And maybe it's just like, well, you're not as big as us. You matter not as much as us. And so we're going to cut right into your season for these things. But when Trinity is making a push, especially after the fact when Chawinga goes down, this is your opportunity to have a fully healthy Spirit team and get a dub, get a championship. So that's a little concerning for me. And Trinity's injury history, I feel like because she's such a huge star, they don't want to rush her back. So they take as long as they have to in order for her to feel like fully healthy. But from what I was reading, it didn't sound like she was going to be gone that long. It kind of sounded like it was just going to be a few weeks. That's just what I read. It was like not avoided a serious injury. But what did look serious, Sarah, was that air cast that she was wearing that like went all the way up to her hip bone.
Did you see her? She came back out. She seemed in pretty good spirits because she was doing like finger guns with the crutches. So I saw a tweet that was like, someone was like, me in tears because, you know, the Spirit have lost Trinity Rodman once again. And then like, meanwhile, Trinity Rodman, and it's like her being
Pew,
like,
pew, pew, pew.
I love her energy regardless. She's got it. But it is a bummer because I don't know, are we ever going to see a fully healthy... It's almost as if the injury plague that took over the WNBA this year is now also taking over the NWSL. I mean, you have your three arguably biggest stars right now sidelined, right? You have Barbara Banda is out with whatever she's out with, quad, I believe. Then you've also got Chawinga out with again, we don't really know what the injury is. And then Trinity, who is out now for the third time this season.
They said it was
sprain?
definitely not a knee. That's what they said. All the reporting says that Chawinga's injury is not a knee, but it is the upper leg. So that's my 1/4 of physiology. That is either quad, hamstring, or groin. All it's of those tough.
All tough. And I'll tell you, the way that they carried her off the field, I mean, Trinity kind of like limped off the field. She didn't put weight on her knee, but she was like still participating in her own movement off the field. Chawinga was, I mean, literally like they were hoisting her like crucifix style off, you know, the field. Like they were holding her up by her arms.
Crucifix?
I don't know. Like, you know, arm out, just like holding. I don't know what. I'm Jewish. I don't know what a crucifix.
You should know. Jewish people should know what a crucifix is. This is like. Let me rephrase that. This is like when I was watching.
Let me rephrase that. I don't pay attention to what the actual. I don't know. My point is, arms out. They had her held by like arms.
These are two back-to-back weeks with historically egregious errors. It's just like horribly egregious errors by someone who claims to be a history buff. Is just out here
you know
potting.
What?
That's what the kids say, potting. When you just get on the mic and you just forget all the things that you actually know to be true because you're just chatting. You're just over here
potting.
Chatting. Yeah.
I've never heard that phrase
potting.
before.
Podding. Potting. Means you're just podcasting.
By the way,
You're just
speaking of
saying
potting, I think you have to cancel pause. Like, I think you have to be done with pause, because I don't know if you saw, but in the SNL skit, they did an SNL skit this weekend where they were making fun of boys doing, like, teenage boys having podcasts. And they kept making the pause joke.
Wow. Congratulations to Cameron and Mace, who were the ones who originated the pause. But
I think the teenage boys have gotten a hold of it, which means I think it's officially over.
I think SNL has gotten a hold of it. I don't know that it will ever go away, Sarah. I'm sorry.
Things have gone away. You remember, I can't think of any right now, but there were definitely things that we said in middle school that don't get said anymore.
Well, yeah.
For a lot of reasons.
I can tell you what pause was before pause, and it wasn't good.
Yeah, that wasn't good. We had to get rid of that.
Do you know what it is?
I do know what it is.
Okay, good. Anyway, back to Chawinga. What does this mean, in your opinion, for the Kansas City Current? If she is out, we'll call it indefinitely, out for the postseason, what does that mean to you in terms of the table, the opportunity for Kansas City to still win this thing? Because Chawinga's, and also ratings, Chawinga's the most electric player, I think, in terms of what she does. Maybe not like a big name as a star outside of the soccer community, but I think that was her opportunity as the NWSL gets so big and like there's attention on it as there's more attention on women's sports, for her to really have a coming out party. So what do you think this means for Kansas City?
Well, I think that it means a couple things. First of all, I think it's tough. I think it's tough to look at Kansas City and say they can't win without her, because they can. She's kind of been dealing with some injury stuff all year. She's been on the bench she's come off the bench, come in as a sub in a couple games. She hasn't started. She ended up getting the start in this game. She's been hampered a little bit by injury. She hasn't been as quick. They've still been able to score. They still have Lola Bonta. They still have Dabinia. They still have a lot of talent on that team that can carry them through. Is it the same sort of like goal scoring breakaway prowess? No. But can they win without it? Yes, I do believe that they can. Now, they lost that game.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. The thing is that I'm curious about, to get you as a follow-up, is like they've won a lot of games, and I don't mean to disrespect Kansas City, because I'm not meaning to be disrespectful when I say this, or be disrespectful to the NWSL as a whole. But there are a lot of teams that are duck butter in the NWSL. There are teams at the bottom of the table who, like, of course Kansas City's going to beat. But once you're in the playoffs, everybody's pretty damn good, and they've made changes at the trade deadline to get better. And so to that end, you can't win like a bunch of 1-0 games and win a championship, in my opinion. What do you think?
No, I think that's fair. I'm pulling up their...
They've won 4 of their last 5. The game that they lost was the one that Chawinga got injured.
Yeah, but they've also, I'm looking at who their season losses have been against. Because to that point, they've lost this year against the Courage. They've lost to the Reign. Reign are good.
Yes.
Courage are...
meh.
They're fighting for a playoff spot still. So they're okay. They've also had a draw with the Pride. They've also had a draw with the Spirit, both good teams. But then they lost to the Dash, a game that they arguably should not have lost. Now, Houston was fighting and giving everything they had to win that game, because as of the time that they played that game, they were still eligible to make it into the playoffs. But then yesterday, Gotham got a draw, which ended up officially knocking Houston out. It's all very convoluted because of the point system. But Houston ended up getting knocked out anyway, so they're an eliminated team. Should Kansas City be losing to a playoff eliminated team? Probably not. Now, is there a lot of, they had already clinched, they've held the shield for a month already.
So you think they're just bored?
Could it be a case of, hey, we've got an international break coming up, we're tired, our star just went down, we're feeling not as much ourselves, this team really wants it, this team really needs it, we don't really need it, we don't really want it as bad in this game. But what I do think that this loss actually potentially does is help them, because I do think it will show them weakness. I think it will give them tape to show, hey, when we don't do X, Y, and Z, we lose. How do we play without Chawinga? How do we win without Chawinga? How do we win when our backs are against the wall? And so I think that this loss came at a really good time for them if they're going to be without Chawinga throughout the finals.
What about
throughout the playoffs?
For you, because Trinity has been out for most of the season, in and out, like she hasn't been starting a lot. The Spirit have gotten used to finding ways to win without her. Do you think that the Trinity loss is less impactful than the Chawinga loss?
Yes. Yeah, I knew that's where you were going with that question. And I 100%, because I think that Trinity being gone sucks. Trinity's also only had 5 goals this year. Chawinga has had 15. There is a big difference, a big discrepancy. And not saying that Chawinga is 3 times as good as Trinity Rodman is. Trinity's also
she's been
missed.
also 3 times more available.
That's not, yeah. Trinity's also missed a majority of this season with injury so far. She can't stay healthy this year. And to be honest, this has kind of been a little bit of an Achilles heel of Washington is Trinity Rodman's health. You know, this is a thing that's come and gone. Last year, she went down with an injury and they lost in the championship. You know, but I think that because they've had to learn how to play around the injury issues within their team, they have figured out how to rotate in a way that has allowed them to continue to win even when they don't have their best players in. Because you take Trinity out, sure, but then you're putting Gift Monday in, and I don't know that you're really losing that much. You're not losing that much speed.
Do you feel like offensively, we know that Kansas City's the best defense in the league. They're like just ridiculous. Do you think that offensively the Spirit have more right now than the Current? Do you think that the Current are just very top heavy and the Spirit are more deep, or is that just my interpretation, my novice?
No, I think it's a little bit of your I will say this. The thing that Kansas City has that the Spirit doesn't have is the Spirit play role positions, right? So you have Trinity. Trinity's a playmaker, but for the most part, you want her on one side of the field. Kansas City, all of their players play offense and defense. And so you have a team where, yes, Dabinia is technically a midfielder, but she's up in the box just as much as Chawinga is, you know? And you've got they're a little bit more dynamic on both sides of the ball. So I think that they can make those adjustments when Chawinga leaves. Now, the thing you cannot replace with Chawinga going out, that you can kind of replace with Trinity going out, is a little bit, because I don't mean for that to sound like Trinity is more replaceable than Chawinga is, but Chawinga's speed and her ability to defend is a very hard 1-2 combo to replace. Trinity, you have other players that can create chances and get out into open space and that can move the ball around defenders very sharp. With, like, for example, Croy can do that with Washington, whereas I don't know that they have someone who can really fill that role in Kansas City for Chawinga.
That's a really great point. I'm excited to see how these playoffs end up shaking out and how the matchups go, because those storylines now I think actually add a little bit more chaos to the mix, where there's more uncertainty, where I felt like it was kind of a lock that Kansas City was going to the final, and it was like a semi-lock that the Spirit would be there as well.
I mean, it's kind of like, you look at it this way, like imagine Asia going out a game before the playoffs started. Like, where would we have been saying the Aces were a lock to win? Because I definitely don't think that we would have been. Whereas, you know, Chawinga is leading the MVP race. She's leading the Golden Boot race. She has her team with 3 losses the whole season.
Yeah, it's like if in the M Sport
and technically,
started to make
she wasn't even playing in one of those.
Sorry to make an M Sport reference, guys, but it'd be like if Shai Gilgeous-Alexander went down on that really potent OKC team one day before the playoffs start with a groin injury, and you'd be like, well, they were the heavy favorites. They've been a monster all year. They're a buzzsaw. Nobody can even keep up really with them in terms of like the disparity between 1 and 2 in the standings is massive. But now that he's out, we have no idea, and this team is stacked, but we have no idea what they're going to look like, and they're definitely more vulnerable. So I think from a watching standpoint, that's actually more enticing.
There is a team, though, however, that is kind of like my dark horse. And it's not a dark, I don't want to say dark horse because
Sleeper?
I don't really think.
How about sleeper?
A sleeper team. A sleeper team. There you go. I think I've got 2 sleeper teams. Gotham and Portland.
Oh, little Portland love. Okay.
Gotham ends up getting in. They sealed their fate. They sealed their spot in the playoffs. We don't know what seed exactly. But off a Rose Lavelle kind of last minute draw, last minute equalizer to get the draw, to get the points, to solidify their spot in the playoffs. I shouldn't say that a team that consists of Jaden Shaw, Midge Purse, Rose Lavelle, Esther is a sleeper team.
Are they like the Aces?
Are they a team? Here's the thing. The Aces have put it together, right? Like, we had seen glimpses of brilliance from the Aces throughout the season. We have seen that with Gotham, but much less consistently. It's like we see it and you're like, okay, there's the spark. And then the next game they lose. And you're like, okay, it was.
Well, that's what we saw kind of from the Aces too, until that 17-game winning streak. It was.
But that's what I'm saying.
They didn't have that 17-game winning streak.
That's what I'm saying. Gotham has not.
They have not had that momentum going into the postseason. But like in terms of the players, where you're like, well, like this is a team kind of in the bottom of the standings, but they have all the talent in the world to put it together, and they've been a winner before.
And they've been a winner before, but
with different players.
But there's also a lot of players on that team who have not been part of a title run. Rose Lavelle has never won a title.
That's wild.
Esther did. Esther did with Gotham. She was here before. She won with Gotham the last time they were there. I couldn't remember if she was still there. Midge Purse. There's a lot of players that you look at and you're like, this should be a player that has the accolades run down the list. And for some reason they don't. Gotham just can't put it together. What I like about Gotham is kind of the opposite of what I like about Portland, because Gotham, it's like they have this all-star roster. I want to see them put it together, but I call them a sleeper because I'm not sure that they can. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to hold that back. Portland, I think, is outperforming themselves. I think Portland is
Portland the Indiana Fever?
A little bit. I would say, yeah. I mean, I could draw that comparison minus the 47, injuries.
Yeah, but you have a star player in Caitlin Clark that goes down with injury, and then you have
Sophia Smith,
has been out for the entire year with a baby, but different situation. But
with a baby, not with a
still out, like the star player, the most
not with a groin injury, but with a baby.
Yeah. But then they've been outperforming because they don't have a bunch of names, But they do have, but they are finding ways to win games that we don't expect them to win.
Yeah, and like, you know, they lost a lot of players last year, sort of, to retire, not necessarily for any reason, but just sort of, they were gone. They were here, then they were gone. You know, Sophia got pregnant, had a baby. Christine Sinclair retired. So they were kind of in this, like, what I think they've kind of been in this, like, 2-year-long rebuild, kind of, since they won the title. They've been sort of rebuilding. And a player who I think many had sort of written off as not going to live up to what they thought she was going to be when she was, by the way, like 15 entering the league. But Olivia Moultrie, who she's been in the league now for like 5 years, which seems crazy at the age of 20. And so she's playing with this sort of veteran presence.
She looks like a baby.
She's a baby. She's a baby. And she was sort of that princess who was promised type of hype coming into the league because she was so young, and there was a lot of fight from her parents and herself to get her signed to the league because they weren't going to let her sign to the league because she was so young. She ends up getting in, and then I think, you know, she kind of sat back in the shadows, whether that was Portland pulling her back into the shadows a little bit, whether it was her parents, whether it was herself. They didn't really kind of parade her as like this young next coming of whatever in the same way that they did with the Thompson sisters.
She's been on the Thorn since 2019. She was.
That's what I said. She's been in the league for 5 years, 6 years.
They said on this Portland Thorn thing, she's been a professional since 13 years old, Sarah.
Yes, but she wasn't able to start playing.
She was at the club since 2019. That is 6 years. You can play
and she's a baby.
You can play at 14 years old in the NWSL.
Can I tell you, when I was with the team in 22...
Say yes or no. You can play at 14?
No, they had to sue. They had to sue to allow her to get on the team.
Okay, keep going. That is crazy.
So she was like the youngest ever to... It was sort of like the Lexi Thompson situation where it was like, we have to sue the league to let us actually let her play. Because, like, you would think at some point, like, are there, like, child labor laws that come into play with, like, a 13-year-old on a professional sporting team?
I've never heard anything about, like, I've never heard anything like this before.
Like an actual child. Like, she's
like the girl has just gotten her first Kotex, okay? And
she grew up on this team.
And she doesn't really look old. She looks like she could be 15 years old right now.
No. And she, mind you, they, like I said, they kind of, like, they didn't, it wasn't like this immediate, like, look what we have. Like, they kind of let her just, like, grow up.
They were almost like,
a little bit,
something, but we don't want to, like, show it off because, like, maybe you're going to try to steal it, or maybe you're going to tell us we shouldn't have it.
I will remember this. When I was with the team, when they won on their title run, which was in 22, she would have been 17. She would have been 17. And, you know, I'm traveling around with the team to their games. And she's, like, her parents are there. They make their own travel. They're, like, they kind of keep her, not separate, but very, like, she's there, but she's also, like, she's part of the team. She flies on the plane with the team, but, like, her parents are also on the plane. And I remember we were doing interviews, and I had asked if we could interview her, and they were like, let her sit this one out. And I remember being like, that's kind of weird. But now that I think back on it, I'm like, were they just trying to kind of protect her a little bit from the media and let her grow up and let her, like, be a kid and learn at the same time of not, like, having to be a fully professional adult? I don't know. But it's worked because she's really matured and grown into this, like, leadership role, this Christine Sinclair role, which is crazy because Christine Sinclair is 20 years older than her. So I think she's now had a great season. She had 2 goals in this game last night against Angel City, which we're going to talk about because that was a little sad game. But she had 2 goals last night, and I think that she's really developing, and I like her coming into this playoff series. I just like Portland coming into this series. I could see them making a sneaky little run.
I'm going to the final game of the season against the Houston Dash, which will be good. We can see our girl Paige. And interview a couple of the players. But I'm very excited about this team because, as you know, I'm a Portland girl through and through. So if we could get a little NWSL playoff action where I could be in the mix, that'd be pretty exciting.
Let me see. I don't know that you have a possibility of being in the home game mix. No, you could. You could. There's a potential for it. You're kind of like
tweening.
Right now they're sitting 6th.
Yeah.
Right now they're sitting 6th. They could sneak up.
We have to be 4th, right?
You have to be 4th to guaranteed home at some point. If one of the above teams loses before the second round, then you could be home.
Interesting.
But I don't really know that I see Kansas City, Washington, Pride, or Wave losing in the first round. So
just the thing about the Wave that we need to talk about really fast, and I bet you didn't expect
the shadiness.
You didn't expect me to say those words, did you?
No, I didn't.
Is that like this team is like, I think everyone wants to hide that they exist because they
hide that the Wave exists?
Yeah, because like you said, the shadiness, and if you look at the table, all the other teams that are at the top of the table are like, look at them! Like, hey, look at the spirit. They're so fun. They've got Trinity. Look at Chawinga, Kansas City. You got Patrick Mahomes and Brittany Mahomes there. Like, you've got the rain. Look at Megan Rapinoe. She's at the game. She's talking shit to the Thorn. Look at them. Everybody. And then you're like, the Wave. And I always am like, oh, yeah, the Wave.
They're also there.
I think that's intentional.
I mean, maybe. There's something weird going on with the Wave.
Isn't that weird?
It is a little strange. I will say that there's something kind of like sus going on.
Can you explain to fans like what is shady with the Wave?
Why is the Wave shady? Like actually like what's going on with Jill Ellis?
Yes.
Okay.
Can we just break it down like real quick for like maybe a 2-minute synopsis about the controversy with the Wave?
So the controversy with the Wave is that, and now since you just threw this at me last minute and I don't have the dates off the top of my head, but to the best of how I can explain it, Jill Ellis left at the end of last year to
She was the manager.
She was the president and GM of like the whole in charge of operations. If you don't know, Jill Ellis, former women's national team coach for several years, kind of went out in a way that was not celebrated despite having won 2 World Cups. It was a little weird. So she goes to the Wave. She becomes the head of football operations. Head of operations. Do they call it football operations in soccer?
Not sure.
Football club? Okay. So she then brings in Casey Stoney to be the head coach. Casey Stoney, they bring in Alex Morgan, they have Naomi Girma, it's all exciting. The Wave is like, woo, in their first season, they make it out all the way to the semifinals of the playoffs. They lose, but it's exciting. Naomi Girma's Rookie of the Year, and, claps for them.
Ooh, she bad.
Then it all starts to unravel pretty quickly. And last year, mid-season, Casey Stoney gets fired. Mid-season, very strange because Casey Stoney is a very good coach. And they get eliminated from the playoffs, and they hadn't even been eliminated yet. It was halfway through the season. They just fired Casey Stoney. 2 games later, Alex Morgan announces she's pregnant and is retiring. And it's not even going to play like up until the end of her pregnancy. She's going to just retire the next game. Like, she's done. Which is also very strange because, like you saw with literally Christen Press the other night, they usually wait until the end of the season to be like, hey, now I'm going to retire. It was like, I'm retiring, goodbye.
Tomorrow.
FYI, this is my last game on Sunday. So, and it was like, oh my God, Alex Morgan's retiring. I remember I got a call from the NWSL scrambling to figure out what we were going to do for Alex Morgan's retirement in 3 days. Then Jill Ellis gets this FIFA job to lead something at FIFA. Now there's a lawsuit against Jill Ellis from the owners of the Wave saying that they brought her in because they brokered a deal, or she helped broker the sale of the team after the Casey Stoney exit. This new owners came in. Actually, it was right before Casey Stoney. These new owners came in, bought the team, fired Casey Stoney, and then Jill Ellis left. And they claim that Jill Ellis had sold them, a bunch of shade.
A Ponzi scheme.
A Ponzi scheme because she had made long-term future commitments, and that that their agreement, they had a 5-year plan that included Jill Ellis, and then she just dipped and left them with this team with no management, with no coach, with literally Naomi Girma leaves, Alex Morgan retires, and now they just own this shell of a team. And so basically they're suing.
Very fascinating stuff. So anyway, they're just there, and they're still winning games. If you talk about a team that, like, who knows why they just continue to win when their star power's all been decimated, coach gone, head of football operations, whatever you call it, gone. It's just a very, make things that make you go, huh. You know what I mean?
And Jill Ellis, if I remember correctly, there's been a lot of, whispering about Jill Ellis.
When I was there at the 2019 World Cup availability,
mm-hmm.
and everybody on the U.S. women's national team, regardless of how much playing time they get, they all were there for media availability. And they all gave, full access, one-on-ones, inside rooms. I think I did, 20 minutes with Julie Ertz and this and that. The one constant that you can just, hear whispers and vibes. It's just when you would ask questions about coaching, there would be little shade kind of being thrown towards Jill Ellis, who was also there at the media availability, and was quite, I would say, if I didn't have a red light on, I would say another word, but the word I'm going to use that starts with the C is cantankerous. And
fair.
And so it didn't shock me when the word on the street was we didn't really love playing for.
I have to say,
Kim Mulkey vibes. You know what I'm saying?
It's Mulkey-y, except I will say this. Mulkey has the love of the players.
She does. Some players.
Flaugier loves Mulkey.
The straight players
The only person
love
that I think loved Jill Ellis was Carly, which
no, she did not. At the end of
she didn't even. Okay.
At the end,
so nobody liked Jill Ellis.
Nobody liked Jill Ellis because remember, Jill Ellis benched Carly in that 2019 World Cup. Look at me bringing up facts.
Look at you knowing things. But I remember hearing things on podcasts or in interviews where players would kind of hint towards the fact that they were being kept in the closet because Jill Ellis wanted them to stay in the closet, which is weird because I'm pretty sure Jill Ellis is gay. I remember thinking to myself when I saw Jill Ellis hired at the San Diego Wave, going, well, that's interesting. I'm surprised because of all of that because of the reputation that she had leaving. I mean, who leaves after winning 2 World Cups? Who gets kind of nudged out? Like, she didn't get fired, but they kind of were like,
You should probably go.
hey, you could probably, I think you've done enough here.
Like, you've done great. You've had a great, it'd be like if someone after you win something was like, you've had a great career. It's like, I've had a great career. I'm still
having it. No, you
did a great job. I just want to let you know.
Or it's like, hey, or someone at, USA Soccer says, hey, we're going to introduce you to the new owners of the San Diego Wave.
You should really consider maybe taking that job.
Taking a new job, a different job, a job that's a little easier on you.
Speaking of players that were on that U.S. women's national team, we had a shocking, I don't know if it's shocking, I guess, but she's old, but it was like, I feel like Christen Press has kind of been, for this age, she's beloved. She had her ins and outs when she was going to start. We were on Christen Press watch in terms of when she was getting the start early on in the season. Yeah. Then it was a lot going on when Tobin Heath officially retired, which we kind of already knew. But now
officially unofficial.
Yeah. So now Christen Press announces she retired. It was cutting onions in the mix. Mm-hmm. Tobin Heath, her wife, had CP, and hearts all over her T-shirt.
And their dog. Did you see their dog?
And their little dog. I assume Bob. The T-shirt was homemade. But anyway, what did you make of her retirement?
I think Christen deserves every bit of flowers that she's getting right now. I think Christen Press, she's not going to go down in history as one of the highest goal scorers or the most minutes or the most championships. I do think that Christen Press, though, will go down as one of the most beloved players to ever wear a USA Soccer jersey. I think that she just has this, like, zest, I'll say, for the game, for life. She has such a deep love for the sport that I think is so palpable and so obvious that it's why they brought her to LA to start that team. I think that she will always be that person that made so many people fall in love with the NWSL. And so I think having her be able to go out in a nationally televised game at night in front of the home crowd, I think it's appropriate that she's going out in Chicago. Next week, she's going to be in Chicago. That was her team, her original NWSL team when she came to the States after leaving Europe and playing. So I think it's. I would have loved to see her be able to go out with like a tour, like kind of getting to go to all of her old stops. She's played at a lot of teams. She's been loved a lot of places. But I think what she has done for the visibility in women's soccer, she was kind of one of the first like really transcendent stars, I feel like, from the national team that was in the ESPN body like magazine. She was, started her own fashion company. She has all of these little pieces that I just think make Christen Press such an irreplaceable character in women's soccer.
I love her. She was one of my first people that I met from women's soccer, like on a personal level. She's delightful to be around, very shy. But I think her and Tobin together became this like beautiful power couple as well. That that was very online and very like they've got their little podcast. Not that I don't mean to say it like it's little, but you know what I mean. It's very everything about them is very adorable,
cute. Yeah, they're very cute.
Their
dog is cute.
There's nothing you can say negatively about either one of them, and that is hard.
Like every now and then, I cringe like at some of their pictures because they're like too cute. But like, if cringing at someone's like too cuteness is like the worst it gets, then I think you're doing okay. Yeah, like, I think you're doing okay
It's been a great career for Christen Press. Shout out to her. Shout out to the Flowers for her. And I know that she's going to be missed.
She's who got me to fall in love with the NWSL. Like, just entirely. I remember watching her in the 2019 World Cup and being like, I need to keep watching her when she's done playing in this World Cup. And so, despite having lived in Orlando and having an all-star team there, I became a Utah Royals fan because that's where she played at the time. And I went out and bought like a Utah Royals hat and Christen Press jersey. And
retirement should not be overcomplicated. You should feel like the advice that you're getting fits your life, not someone else's agenda. That is straight talk and a solid strategy, and that's what you get from Fuchs Financial, our guy. Watch Ben's show, How to Retire, on his YouTube page, which we link in the show notes. Thank you to Ben. Seriously, thank you to Ben for believing in what we're doing over here. Our first sponsor, our most important sponsor to date, and we're always going to keep it solid. So go over there and check Ben out. Let's move on to the WNBA. My team, the Portland Fire. I am super excited that I'm getting a team. I'm loving the logos. I'm loving the branding. Shout out to friend of show, my friend, Ashley Battle, for becoming the VP of basketball operations. That broke after our episode last week. I called her when that news got broken, and she's currently an assistant coach for the Boston Celtics right now and also does commentary for the Connecticut Sun games. And I actually told her in July that I thought that she should get this job, and it was in the wake of them firing a bunch of people that they had just hired and the chaos there. I said, you should try and get that job. But she did get the job. And anyway, Portland Fire announces their new head coach, Alex Samara, who...
Twice. They did it. They announced it twice.
They actually leaked it once. It was actually accidentally leaked. And now it's official. Alex Samara from the Cleveland Cavaliers comes over to be a head coach for the Portland Fire.
What do you think of this hire?
I think I'm conflicted, is what I will say. I think it's amazing that the Portland Fire's GM and their VP of basketball operations are both women. I of course, would have loved to see a Natalie Nakase type hire to go along with it. Of course. But if you're going to hire someone from the NBA, which it seems like teams are doing more and more. You saw that from Nate Tibbetts coming over from the NBA side as the Orlando Magic head coach, assistant head coach. And I think what he did is prove that you can be really good coming from the NBA in the women's side. And I think the thing that I would say about Alex, even though he has only 2 years of assistant coaching experience, is that he's known for innovative basketball. He wrote a book called Transforming Basketball, and the offense of the Cleveland Cavaliers last year, they were the number 1 seed in the East. They were one of the most innovative offenses I've seen. They cut a lot without the ball. And, so Tibbetts is highest paid behind Becky. Okay, good. So they move a lot without the basketball. They cut, they rotate. It's a very fluid, non-WNBA style. And so I think for that reason, I'm, as a fan of this team, excited to see what he does.
Fair enough. I don't love the hiring of another young white man.
I think every hire should be taken individually.
But I'm saying,
you know what I mean? Like, I think it's like, is this
sure,
guy good?
But when everything
or is this
taken,
guy not good?
Yes, but I think that you can make up a league of people who are good and qualified of any gender, race, creed, whatever you want to say. I'm saying that who was looked at for this job, and was this person, this Alex guy, Samara? Is that how you say it? Samara? Alex Samara was he the most qualified? You know, did they interview some of these women that we posted 7 of them on our page that are qualified
I think
women?
some of those people on the list should not be getting head coaching opportunities right now. Me personally.
Okay, fair
I
enough.
don't think that Lisa Leslie should get a head coaching job right now. She hasn't been coaching. She hasn't expressed interest in coaching. And so for that reason, I don't think that Lisa Leslie is I think Lisa Leslie is a great player development coach right now.
Okay, what about Nola Henry?
Nola Henry, unfortunately, wasn't even on our list, but I think Nola has shown that she can operate in a tumultuous period and with a lot of turnover, and players obviously love her. She's got the experience coaching 3-on-3. She did that. I think she was the Roses head coach there. But she's never really done anything that has given me she should be a head coach right now. She was an intern back in 2020. She then was a basketball operations manager for the Sun. She then did player development for the Sparks, which, by the way, in 2023, the Sparks had a lot of tumultuous stuff going on. Then she was an assistant in 2024, and then she was an assistant for a really terrible Wings team. So I don't think I can say, based on what Nola has done, that I would give her a job over a guy who was responsible for building the best NBA offense in the league last year.
I guess my question is, whichever name you want to take. I just think that when continuously, sure, take every coaching job as a whole. Take every coaching job, as an individual. But when individually each job is being filled by more men, by more white men, which are not representative of the people who are playing in this league, do we get further separated from front office and locker room? Because to me, it feels like we're losing a little bit. The teams that you see that have these really great successes in these really healthy locker rooms, a lot of the time, and not always, because we saw it with Seattle, right? There were locker room questions in Seattle. There were locker room questions last year in Chicago. But then you look at like the Aces team, right? Or the Fever team, where you have these locker rooms that are so tight knit because you have a coach that the players feel very able to communicate with. And then you look at things like Dallas, where complete separate pages.
Well, I think it's one part of it is definitely how you connect with players. That's definitely something that you need to be able to do as a head coach. But you also need to know how to scheme. And so that is something that's a very interesting balance. And I think that there's a pipeline issue with women in coaching. Because these men, like, for example, Carl Smesko, give me a second. For example, Carl Smesko, white man, I think took that. And I don't want to make it sound like I'm stumping for white men, because I'm not. I'm just saying, in terms of the pipeline, that pipeline needs to be fixed as well. Because Carl Smesko came from being a head coach for Florida Gulf Coast, who overperformed in college basketball for the time he was there. He was a head, and he was there for 22 years. That's fucking a ton of coaching experience. And the last couple of years, Florida Gulf Coast has been pretty good. And so he's had head coaching experience since 1999 and has been successful. And I think what he did with the Dream, nobody expected the Atlanta Dream to be any good at all. We thought that they would be actually pretty bad with all the changes that they made. So Stephanie White, on the other end, you talk about players that respect her on the Fever. She's been coaching since 2003. And she's been a head coach for multiple teams. She was on the Sun. She was a head coach at Vanderbilt. She was an assistant for multiple teams. She was an assistant in college. that pedigree, that amount of coaching and success within that, I think gives her the pedigree that she deserves to be a head coach in this league. I think for some of the people who have come in, they're just barely been in the league doing anything for the last 5-7 years. Like Teaspoon was an excellent player, but Teaspoon's the reason that a lot of people have told me was their dissension within the Chicago Sky organization, is because she was sort of allowing a dissent to happen between different factions within the locker room. Now, she performed better than Tyler Marsh did, and Tyler Marsh had a terrible season
And to be
with
fair,
Chicago.
their locker room problems are still there.
But the locker room problems are different. They're not the type of locker room problems that we saw with the Chicago Sky. And I don't want to get into what those locker room problems are because you're opening up a whole bag of can of worms in terms of like the racial issues that Marina Mabry said that she was feeling tension-wise in the locker room. That's not going on. And none of that is being put on Tyler Marsh for exacerbating that culture issue. So I think every single scenario, for example, I don't know if what Natalie Nicase would have been able to do in Chicago. I don't know if Tyler Marsh is any good. We know that this man bun is not good. We know that he's a total Nepo hire. He's not good. And we know that Kurt Miller's the GM for the Dallas Wings, also not good. And that he hired his friend to come into the league. But, like, honestly, Man Bun's probably the least qualified white man that's been hired recently.
To the point about the pipeline, because it just sort of made me think of what Dawn Staley said the other day about when she was asked, do you think a woman will ever coach an NBA team? And she said,
not in her
nope.
lifetime.
She said, I don't think I'll see it. Which leads me to say, I don't like, and I think a big issue is that women's sports, because of the pay difference, women's sports coaching jobs are seen as a stepping stone to a better job. It's not seen as the premier job in sports. Coaching a women's WNBA team is not seen in the same light as coaching a men's NBA team. It's not a head coach in one league is not equal to a head coach in the other league.
I would say that you're right about that.
No, I mean, that is factually accurate. Like, they don't make the same amount of money. They do not require the same amount of credentials to get the job. And so I think that there is very little pipeline because they're taking from the men's world of G League or assistant coaches or wherever they're taking them from. I'm not saying one in particular. I'm just talking about in general. Or they're taking head coaches of men's NCAA teams and they're putting them in the WNBA instead of looking at who are the best coaches in women's college basketball and moving them to the WNBA. Because there's not enough pay. First of all, I guarantee you that Dawn Staley probably makes more at South Carolina than she would make at a WNBA team.
Absolutely, she does.
Kim Mulkey, same thing. Not to mention they are college coaches. They're like the Nick Saban, right? Like there's some coaches that are built for college, there's some that are built for pro. But what I'm saying is there is no pipeline for women's coaches, I feel, to get to where they need to be because they're so busy pulling from NBA teams since that's considered the next step up. It's not considered a next step up. Like if you're on a tier system, going to a women's league or a women's NCAA school is going down 3 or 4 spots. You know, it's not going down to the next level of men's.
But I think
coaching,
what you're seeing, though, is if Nate Tibbetts, who was an assistant coach and on the front bench of the Orlando Magic, a team that was on the rise, a team with Paolo Banchero on it and all these other really interesting players, I think it shows how enticing the WNBA is right now, that an assistant would want to be a head coach and make $2 million a year to coach the Mercury. And I think that's actually showing some growth. And then I think you did see two coaches get hired as a head coach coming from the Aces organization with Natalie Nicase and Tyler Marsh. So they are pulling from WNBA programs as well. I think it just depends on probably the relationships that the GM has around the league and them finding people that they feel comfortable with. And in this case, with Kurt Miller, he felt comfortable with Man Bun, which was terrible. That just cannot happen.
Well, despite the poor coaching and the good coaching, ESPN announced the other day that this was the most watched season of the WNBA and WNBA postseason that they've had, which is wild for a year that we were told repetitively that Caitlin Clark was not playing and therefore no one was watching.
Yeah, I'm really curious about those ratings and like what the catalyst was. Was it the Asia comeback, like 17 games? Was it just the fact that they were on in really great nationally broadcasted spots? Was it because I feel like it was maybe more storylines and there was like a little bit more intrigue.
Yeah, I think this year the league really feathered out from Caitlin. And I'm curious if we would have seen that had Caitlin not got hurt.
I was wondering the same thing.
I kind of think no. I kind of think Caitlin getting hurt, and not that I ever wish injury on anybody, but I almost think it was kind of good for the league.
I agree. Because it shows we can diversify and still get just as good a ratings.
Well, because now we have to figure out how to sell this league without Caitlin on the floor. So it put the feet to the fire of the executives and the producers and the directors that work at these networks that have to now still fill 42 games of Fever on television without Caitlin Clark.
I think what helped a lot was the fact that the Fever were on national TV so much, and Kelsey Mitchell ended up being top 5 in MVP voting. And she put together such an insane campaign where she was balling out of her mind. And there was just so much drama with the Fever, and Sophie Cunningham's chirping online, and you've got the DeWanna Bonner situation. So you had like this really unique mix of injuries, the Caitlin Clark effect. You had Sophie, the new players on the team, and how they're mixing and meshing, and also like a player coming out of nowhere and having a coming out party. I mean, not out of nowhere. Kelsey Mitchell is a great player, and we knew that. But this level of production that we saw from her was insane.
And then there was, we started to have like beef between teams because of like things that were going on online or on, we had Phoenix Mercury had beef with the Fever, and then we were following the anti-Fever storyline in terms of the DeWanna Bonner and Alyssa Thomas stuff. Then we have, all the drama with the Liberty Lesbians and Sabrina. There's
the links.
All the injury. There's a lot of storylines that I think the Stud Buds. Another one.
Yep.
I think there were a lot of things that got people attached to different aspects of the game.
Put your V's up.
The Valkyries. I mean, there was a lot of the CBA, Fee, Asia versus Fee all the way down to the very end for MVP. I think there was just a lot of really compelling things that I think we would not, I mean, would they still have happened if Caitlin had been there? Yes.
Would we be talking about them? Maybe not.
Would we know? Well, because would we know about them? Would the 5 outlets that cover women's sports be using their allotted 4 posts a day to talk about Sophie Cunningham, or would they just be talking about Caitlin Clark over and over and over again? Yes, they would.
Yep.
So instead, we got a diversification of storylines that I think suited one for anybody.
And I think as much as people hate on Unrivaled that are WNBA purists because they're like, oh, they're creating this rival league to the WNBA. I think that Unrivaled gave us this unique insight into players' personal lives and the one-on-one tournaments and all the fun things that they were doing with the players on social media, kind of kept them in the front of our mind the entire offseason and created a lot of momentum that fed into the regular WNBA season. How
much do you think this hurts Kathy's argument that, like, the league the players need the league more than the league needs the players type of argument, and like that it's a Caitlin Clark league and that's why they all get money.
Like the what she was actually trying to say that the league was more than Caitlin Clark. I think it actually supports that argument because you can tell she's got disdain for a top heavy star driven league. Like the Caitlin Clark should be on her. She should be thanking me for everything that I've done from her.
Because she got $16 million.
Yeah, and so I think it actually shows that Kathy, in that respect, is correct that there's probably a dozen or more stars that really drive the needle.
Or more. And I think there were so many people that casual fans got introduced to this year. You know, that have been around. And
like Odyssey Sims.
Like Odyssey Sims. But even bigger than that, like Jackie Young.
Yep.
You know, like Kalia Copper. Like Alicia Gray.
Alicia.
Big Al. I think that there were a lot of people that got to kind of...
The All-Star game helped it a lot.
It was more of a grab bag of who you wanted to be a fan of.
I think the All-Star weekend helped a lot. The Stud Bud stream.
100%.
Getting access to touching all these different WNBA players and seeing their personality in that setting. The dancing. The Dejanay stuff. Like all of that.
Dejanay's another one.
It became a big machine. It became a massive machine. To that end, I asked you something. This yesterday or the day before, because I was watching the M starting five. And in the starting five, they have Jaylen Brown, who is coming off of a title and wants to repeat. They have a player who ends up becoming MVP and winning their first title in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. They've got Tyrese Halliburton, who I'm not even sure why they decided to profile him. But it was brilliant because the Indiana Fever go to the finals out of nowhere, and he has some of the most clutch moments in NBA history and ends up getting injured in Game 7 of the finals. You have James Harden, who went to a new team, and Kevin Durant, who's on a team that ends up wanting to trade him, and Kevin Durant and Harden had played together before. So there's like those storylines as well. So I was thinking to myself, wow, I could not imagine. It'd be so amazing to have this type of coverage and these types of storylines shown to us about the W players, like how they think about playing and like their personal lives and like storylines about them facing former teams and all that stuff. And so with all the fun storylines that we had in 2025 in the W, looking back, who would you have wanted the cameras to be on this season and why?
So I struggled with because when you first said this, you said, who do you want a starting five, Doc, with? And then I was struggling because I was like, do you mean last season or do you mean this coming season? So I had two different answers. But if we're looking back at last season and in retrospect, who would I like to sit down and watch a doc of right this second? I think I've got a couple. I think the first on my list is, and now it's kind of like a 2-for-1. Because I live in the same house, but AT and DB. I think that I would love to, like, in hindsight, see all the...
AT then, because then DB comes later in the season, and then that becomes its
Okay,
own
so then,
thing.
okay, if I'm picking one then DB.
No,
because
you cannot have that. You don't want to see? You can't have an aging star as it's
okay.
5.
All right, fine. Then AT. And then AT. You see it through AT's eyes. I'd love to see what happened.
Like, come home, babe. Just come on home.
Yeah, like what happened with that whole Fever debacle? The whole... What's those conversations? What's happening late at night that we're having? What are these conversations about? Like, you know, you just need to come to Phoenix. Just come here. That would be number one. Number two is I want to see what is going through Sophie Cunningham's mind every time she goes and starts opening her mouth and talking about whatever online. Because she really, I think, like the villain storyline. That's what I want to see Was this curated? Was she, because part of me feels like it's purposeful. Part of me feels like it's an act a little bit. So I'd love to see that behind the scenes. Asia, obviously, like that turnaround mid-season. What was that? What sparked that takeoff of going from regression year to MVP year? Because I think that's wild. And then NECA. I struggle between NECA and Fee. What?
Continue answering.
You went.
Continue answering.
I was going between NECA and Fee. I mean, I think either I would take. Probably Fee. Is it
because of my face that I made?
No, I literally wrote down
NECA or
Fee.
But you just changed it because of my face?
No, because I think Fee is ultimately like the more compelling name in that. I think I was thinking producer mind. I just know that NECA is going to be more open with you than Fee would be.
Oh, but see, here's the thing that you need to know about Starting Five. They pay them so much money to be in this documentary that this is the most open you'll ever see. Like, you almost want to choose the most closed off players because it will be the only time you actually get anything real.
Fair enough. I'm just saying, as someone who has done several follow docs, a lot of that access is completely manufactured to look like access, that it's absolutely
You got to watch the Starting Five doc. Keep going.
No, I'm okay. But
No, you will like it in terms of like how it could be done for women. It's incredible. That's all I could think about is how it would be done for women.
But my and then my last, well, how many I have? 1, 2.
You can't have
three,
two players on the same team.
4. Where do I have a second player on the same team?
You put Tisha.
Oh,
Heineman.
Fee and T.
Yeah,
no, fair. So if I do Fee, then Paige. Paige would be my last.
All right, so your list is obviously wrong, but I'm going to tell you why.
Because you have so much experience casting.
No, I'm talking about it in terms of the storylines. So, because you haven't seen the doc. So, like, Tyrese
Well, but I didn't know it had to be comparing them to the men that
I'm
they're...
just saying, I thought
that's how you did it.
That's the way that I think was really cool. So, like, the Tyrese Halliburton coming out of nowhere and going to the finals and being this, like, guy who got disrespected from the Olympic team and was in this, in like, a massive slump to start the year and then ends up, like, becoming maybe one of the greatest killers of NBA history. I think that's Kelsey Mitchell. Like, the Fever are the Indiana Pacers. So you bring Kelsey Mitchell in and, like, you show her taking the reins of the team. So you still get all the Fever noise. You'll still get all the Fever noise.
Okay.
I think we need the Fever noise for Starting Five. You need someone that's trying to repeat. So it has to be either Breanna Stewart or Sabrina. That's storyline. And then, like, the dismantling of the Liberty as a franchise and the coaching fire and that whole thing and the injuries. I don't care actually who it is, Breanna Stewart or Sabrina. Whoever you think would be the most compelling. Maybe it's Sabrina. You need the team that wins the title and the MVP. So partly Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's story, but she's already won titles. So you need the Asia regression and the win streak and how they end up winning and what she says to the teammates to get them to, like, turn around. You need the counter to Asia, which I think is Fee. And then the whole Kathy Engelbert, like, her exit interview and what goes into that, I think you need. And then the fifth one I think is a toss-up. I actually agree with you with Paige, but I don't know if the Wings are the most compelling story to follow.
I know, I struggled.
But you will get AZ by happenstance, and you will get Paige coming out.
Yeah, and I think that would be, if there was, like, a lot of openness there with, like, the like, should we come out? When do we come out? When does that happen? What's the
Like,
reception
imagine if it's
gonna
like
be?
AZ like laying across Paige or something. You know, like they knew that they were gonna come out later, and they're like showing the edits. You know, they're like, "Oh, do you see this edit?" Where it's like we're in Dallas together at the barbecue. You couldn't capture because they show like James Harden. We didn't know James Harden had a 6-year-old son and a baby on the way. He had never discussed having a child. Ever. And it's like, yeah, I'm in love. I have a son. It's like, what? So you're going to get that from Paige, I think. Overall aura.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, so you had basically the same list I did in 3 of them.
Yes. I just
So,
think
I'm not really-
I don't think Seattle is like a good team to follow.
Well, no, I said NECA or Fee. I just
Yeah,
meant for
I
the
agree.
CBA thing.
Yes.
I just think NECA would be, my reasoning for that was I think NECA would be more open book about what was going on in the CBA at the time. I think Fee can be a little
Yeah, maybe.
close to the chest until it has to happen. But again, if we're getting just full access no matter
full
what,
candidness. They're probably getting paid
if
$5
I'm not
million a
thinking
person.
with,
They're
you
like,
can't
hey,
ask a producer this question
Yeah,
and
you
have
can't.
them not overthink it.
Yeah, you did overthink it.
Because I'm thinking, who's going to give me access? Who's not going to give me access?
Listen, I
I'm
never would have
thinking
thought that
fees
Kevin Durant or James Harden would have said the things that they said. They finally aired out grievances about trades and like how things went
Aren't
down
they
in
both
the
like
past.
huge trolls?
James Harden is not, but they don't talk about
Oh.
certain things like when we don't need to get into the M sports. But
Yeah.
anyway, just watch
I don't
Starting
care.
5 and think about the thing that I thought was really interesting too, that I want it to be showcased for women is like how much work. Like for example, Jaylen Brown's doing boxing and he's also swimming and he's like doing all this cross training and he's talking about how he likes to fight and how he box and fight his coach and you're like the hard working aspect of the players are not shown on the women's side. Like how they work
No.
on their game.
The grinding,
Like
no.
skills and all that stuff I'd want to see.
Or if you do show that, you don't show the other. There's like this unspoken rule in women's sports that you can't be like both hardworking and humble. Or like you can't be you have to be one or the other. And so it's like you either have to be like how they present Flage, which is like this constantly like grinding, or Caitlin Clark grinding, or they're showing you as like Paige, who's like more silly and like out doing things and taking photos with, you know, Jaden Daniels and jersey swapping with CeeDee Lamb, and it's always like fun. But you never really see both of them together.
Yep, I agree. I would love Alyssa Thomas to just be talking about her shoulders, like why she won't get them worked on.
And why DB won't let us talk about them.
Yeah, Dejanay would also be a sneaky one if you wanted to get the Paige, like the Dallas Wings. Dejanay and Alyssa would be like another like whatever it's called, honorable mention. But
I want a whole series that's just on the couples, following like the 4 main couples, ATDB, Melissa and Dejanay, Paige and AZ, and then Tasha and Izzy. Just follow them for a season. I think that'd be fascinating.
I agree. Great show. Very long show. I don't know how the edit's going to go. We've got NWSL playoffs coming right around the bend. We've got college basketball starting soon, so we've got to start ramping up and talking about that.
Yeah, speaking of AZ, I'll be with her tomorrow.
Speaking of AZ, Sarah's going to be at Big East Media Availability tomorrow, so she'll give you her insights and her learnings from her conversations with Gino, Sarah Strong, AZ, and maybe the busiest woman in college basketball, if she attends, she's probably too busy, is KK Arnold. So thanks for doing that, Sarah. And we'll start talking about how
I will be the shortest person in the room.
UConn
Can't wait for
back-to-back champions. I'm calling it now. It's not really a hot take, but I think this team's even more potent as these players get older and Sarah Strong becomes even more of a beast. So, great show. How'd you feel it went?
I thought it was great.
Yeah.
Glad that we're getting more into soccer now.
I love it. 1, 2, 3, Sarah. Let her
Let her shoot.